Hello and welcome to Mammon, the only podcast where you can listen to two mics on mic discussing their own personal top fives. You join us here on episode 5, where we're about to discuss our top 5 forgotten childhood video games. But obviously it wouldn't be Mike on mic without my co-host. It's Mike.
Hi, and my first thing is to talk about that I've messed this top 5 category up already.
In what way?
I would say 1, 2, you could argue are potentially forgotten, but the other 3 are not.
Oh.
But 2 of them are definitely old childhood games. Well, for me, anyway. If you're in your early 20s...
They might be ones that other people have forgotten.
Yeah. I don't think so, but... They're definitely childhood games, and like I say, if you are in your late 20s like me, early 30s like you, then they're definitely games of your childhood.
That's fair. So for me, this whole topic was inspired by the Rugrats game that you suggested back on episode 1. It was a game I'd completely forgotten about and had mentioned on the podcast. I actually sought out buying the PS1 and Rugrats for Search for Reptar just to actually play the game again. So this whole idea is, let's try and think of games. Well, this is how I perceive this topic. Let's think of games that I haven't thought about in years, but actually got such vivid childhood memories of.
If we ever do a Let's Play, we're definitely buying a PS1 again.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea. There seems to be quite a delay on the record, have you noticed?
What do you mean?
I'm stopping, and then you're not speaking for about 5 seconds.
Yeah, but some of them are genuinely just thinking that you're going to say something.
Okay, that's fine then. I thought there was a big delay, so we're all good. As you know, we are recording this in lockdown. We're unable to see each other's faces, so we can't see each other like taking breaths and preparing to speak. It's a difficult time really to start a podcast, but also the best time to start a podcast.
I think as well they're useful because this will just always be our sort of normality. Like, I think I'll find it weird recording. Like, I assume eventually we'll do one to, like face to face together, but that will be strange, I think.
Yeah, it's not going to be for quite a few episodes yet, though, is it?
Oh no, definitely.
Sad times.
But like I say, on the bright side, it means that we never have to. Some people who started podcasting in the same room obviously had to adapt to this. Didn't they?
It must be a lot harder.
Whereas we've got a much easier adaptation, haven't we? Because like being in the same room will just make everything easier. One computer, one thing being recorded rather than 2.
It would actually be Mike.
Be much easier. So, like, go on.
I was going to say it will actually be Mike and Mike on mic because currently it's Mike and Mike on mics.
Hey, Mammon still works though.
It does. That's a great thing about the name. No, so genuinely.
With.
Oh, go on. No, go on. You speak.
Go on.
You speak.
There you go.
You speak.
I was going to say, obviously, this will be out. By the time this podcast is out, people hopefully have already noticed, but just in case they haven't, we have spent about an hour, haven't we, creating a new logo, which we're actually pretty proud of, saying it's 2 people with absolutely no experience in
graphic design. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so. Although I wanted to be a graphic designer when I was younger.
You got it all?
No. That's why it was a bit of a went nowhere sort of idea of
just
mine.
Like the idea of it.
It was like, that sounds like a cool job, a graphic designer. And then that was it.
No further.
No. So with this list, going back to the actual topic, I struggled in a very, very, very good way. So we talked recently about how we're going to put a back burner on top 5 heroes because we're struggling with the topic. But this one, I've got too many answers for the topic, and I think I'm going to have to tweet and Facebook out a picture of my list to show you what I had to narrow it down from, because it's actually insane.
I feel like with this podcast, you're Hermione and I'm Ron.
What's 2 times 27? 54. I've got 54 that I've narrowed it down to. That narrowed it down from.
Jesus.
Yeah.
See, this is what I mean. You're Hermione, you've gone way over with the prep. I'm Ron. I got 5 and then was scraping an honourable mention together.
Really?
Well, I think the problem is I'm really particular with my top 5s, and like there's loads of things that I like, but I was like, but it's not top 5.
Holy fuck! There's one that I didn't put on my list.
There's top 5s that we could have picked. Potentially would have picked, but you'd already mentioned in your games, for instance, or I'd mentioned in my games. So like Rugrats obviously would have been my top 5 childhood, but I'd already mentioned it. You mentioned Ocarina of Time, which might have gone on there, for instance.
Yeah, but I feel like Ocarina of Time, Zelda, yes, they're childhood games, but they're definitely ones that I remember, and to this day still remember, and most people remember. So that's why for me they weren't on this list. But obviously you got confused about the topic title.
Yeah. We'll have to put top 5 childhood games brackets. One of the Mike's forgotten or something.
But we'll call the topic top 5 childhood games, because I also don't disagree with this list of being my top 5 childhood games.
It still works on both levels.
Yeah, it actually for me does.
That's good. Okay, so I didn't fuck up then. We'll just edit all that out and we'll pretend that we were both on the same page.
Should we restart the podcast from here?
Yeah.
Welcome to Mike and Mike. Right.
Always getting professional.
Now then, this is the unprofessional bit. Who started last week? It was you, wasn't it? Or was it me?
I sort of hosted it, so called you in first, so you're sort of hosting, we'll call me first.
Yes. So, Mike, let's start at number 5. I've already changed my list from what I originally had, by the way, at the start of this episode. We've been recording now, obviously stuff has got edited, but we've been recording now for 15 minutes, and I've just decided to change my list right at this second.
Well, with my list, interestingly, normally I put 5 down and then number them, whereas this time I did them in order from my first, second, third, fourth, and then I was struggling for a 5th, and it came to me today, and I'm really happy with it. So my number 5 is a game that was on PlayStation 2, original Xbox, GameCube. I actually picked it up on the GameCube. That's another story I'll mention. But it was Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. The game.
That was an amazing. I've not got it on my list.
There you go. Great choice. Great choice.
Oh, that's a brilliant choice. I love that one.
That was one that I played it at a friend's house on his PS2 and just absolutely loved it. Was desperate to get it.
Yeah. So I think I had it on the Xbox.
Oh, nice. I never had the original Xbox, and then was obsessed with the 360.
Yeah.
But so Lord of the Rings: Two Towers is the video game adaptation of the film, not the book, and you just played through the film essentially, and it was a sort of hack and slash action, sort of God of War style game for those who haven't played it. And you played beat for beat the story, which was brilliant because obviously 2/3 of that film is just Helm's Deep essentially. And what was great as a game, there's a couple of things that I think was special for me. One was it was the first time I seemed to remember a game being like almost photorealistic. Obviously, look back now, it looks dreadful, but like at the time, I seem to remember going, "God, this looks so realistic."
Yeah.
You know, when you go back to sort of the N64, as good as like GoldenEye was, it still looked like a game. At no point did I think this is photorealism. Whereas this is where I started to see it happening. And again, it was one of the first times, maybe I was getting a bit older, the first time that I felt powerful as a character. Like when I was Aragorn, I felt like Aragorn. I think there was something about that. When you were Legolas, you felt like you were Legolas. You felt cool. You felt like you could take on hundreds of orcs. So yeah, I thought it was brilliant. That even that the mini games on Helm's Deep, there's one section where you had to knock the
ladders, didn't you?
Ladders off.
Yeah.
So like I say, it was so cool, and it was super replayable as well. I just remember just going through my favourite stages. Like after I'd completed it, I'd just play for the certain sections that I found the most enjoyable. Which at the time was basically any time that you played as Aragorn or Legolas, I was like,
yeah, and didn't really care for playing as Gimli, if I remember correctly.
No,
he was just a small rotund bloke just swinging an axe.
Yeah, super northern as well, wasn't he?
And he was quite clunky, wasn't he?
Yeah.
No, that's a great shout of a game.
And with this as well, a sort of little story of so this was one of 3 games I ever owned on the game.
Are we going to sit around at Mike's story time?
Yeah, it's Mike's story time.
Gather round, one and all, it's Mike's story time. There you go, you got a jingle.
I hope you keep that tune for every single one. So that Christmas, the Xbox came out, and I put that on my list as my number one choice, not thinking I'd get it. And at Christmas, my mum always sort of orders the presents from like the naff sort of stocking fillers, you know, like some Smarties or whatever, and it builds up to your sort of your main present, and you know it's coming. So I saw this sort of shape that looked sort of the shape of what a games console might come in, so I was getting excited. And as she gave it to me, she's like, right. She went, I went into a game in town, or HMV, whatever it was she went to. She's like, and I couldn't quite remember what it was. So I said to the man in the shop, I was like, it's a games console, and there's a shape in it. There's a shape as part of the name. And dead happy. I said, you're the best mum in the world. And I open the GameCube.
Don't know what disappointment.
I've never been. Oh, honestly. But then, you know, because she was so excited, I sort of had to have, I was like, oh, thank you so much, Mum. This is amazing. She was like, yeah, you're going to be able to play that Halo on it. Yeah, sure.
Oh, bless
So
you.
this, Super Mario Sunshine, and one other game I can't remember, were the only 3 games I ever owned for.
Really? I owned quite a lot of my GameCube.
Yeah, but I've heard a lot of people say... But I think I was just so disappointed it wasn't an Xbox that I never gave it a fair chance.
GameCube's where I played Time Splitters. Time Splitters 2 on the GameCube's where I played that one.
God, I can't imagine playing Time Splitters.
See, because I grew up with a Nintendo 64, the controller, it didn't feel funny to me. I know people obviously... That's probably one of the biggest stick that Nintendo gets. Some people struggle with the controller because it tends to be a bit different compared to the Xbox and PlayStation, which stick to this traditional sort of game controller. But I think, because of that, I never had an issue playing around with it.
So yes, that's my 5th choice, and I think, like I said, it was a last-minute decision, but I'm really happy with it.
Cracking choice.
Linked to it as well. The Return of the King was really good as well, but not quite as good in my opinion for whatever reason. As
I can't remember what battle it was. I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan as you, but there was a big battle in which I just remember just taking down a load of orcs continuously. It was just relentless, and it was just so much fun.
Yeah, it's a great game for that. Like I said, I think hack and slash can be a bit boring, but because it's a topic I enjoy, it took away that repetitiveness.
Yeah, I agree. I've never really got into many like original God of Wars or Devil May Cry and stuff like that. I never got into them personally, but
played Dynasty.
No. But isn't Dynasty Warriors the one that they've semi-remade as a Zelda game called Hyrule Warriors? I think it's the same concept.
Maybe.
And I played a demo of that, and actually I quite enjoyed that. So maybe I've just not given them enough of a chance. Maybe it needs to be about a topic that I enjoy.
Yeah, there you go. That's the trick, probably, isn't it? Okay, your number 5.
My number 5, in which I feel very unprepared for right now, because I am annoyed at myself for not including it, but I'm worried I bumped something that no one would have heard of, but was in my top 5. But actually, I think this one does come above it. So I'll mention that one in my honourable mentions. I might have a few now because of that. But my number 5 was a game I remember playing. It came out in 1991, so some time ago. But I'm sure, obviously, I didn't get it back then.
Yeah, I was born. Great.
I was going to say,
so already like the game.
And it was on the Sega that I played this, and it was the Sega Mega Drive. It was my first console I owned. I think I had it before a Game Boy, so I don't think I had the original Game Boy. I think I went straight for the Game Boy Color. But this game is Micro Machines.
Oh, what a game!
Yeah, I was so annoyed that I'd actually forgotten to put this in my top 5 when I just spotted it, because I used to play it so much. So for those who don't know, obviously Micro Machines is an IP based on the famous toy brand Micro Machines, and in which they're tiny, tiny cars, hence the name Micro Machines. Or I say cars, but they're all sorts of vehicles, so you can have helicopters, tanks, anything there. And this game played on that mininess of it all. So you could play, it was a racing game, obviously, in which you could race around stuff like the bath, dinner tables, pool tables, all sorts of different things. And it was just so much fun. I remember playing it with my friend Cole all the time, and used to be able to ride in the boats in the bathtub, but if you went into the bubbles, then it'd like push you back. I remember the going along a desk and stuff like pencil sharpeners will be in your way that you had to dodge around, and it didn't have all these gimmicks like power-ups or anything like that, or speed boosts. It was, most of the cars were at the same level, but because of all the obstacles in your way, that's what would make it harder. There was actually,
also the top-down view as well. Like,
it was a top-down view.
I remember the episode where you drive around the toilet seat, which is one of the easier ones.
Yes.
It's just a big circle. But because of the angle, having to sort of constantly keep a turn on, it meant that you could accidentally sort of fall off or sort of spin yourself around because you weren't focused enough almost.
It was just a lot of fun, wasn't it? I don't think I ever really played the campaign that much, or if there was a campaign, but I do remember going head-to-head against my brother, some of my friends, just absolutely loving it. It was just a brilliant game, and I think it's been remastered recently for your mobile phone, so you can actually play on there. A lot of fond memories for this game, and I do apologise I'm not as prepared for this one as I should be, but luckily I've got quite a bit of knowledge of it and remember it quite well.
I think what made it so good is it was just so simple. Like, I remember like the film. Do you ever see the film Indian in the Cupboard?
No.
Where essentially he's got this special cupboard and he puts a toy Indian or Native American and locks it and unlocks it and he comes to life as this miniature person and he's just like, living in the world with this kid. I think everyone's sort of gone, oh, I bet it's so cool if you could shrink yourself down and sort of, like your mundane house would also become this like amazing place to explore. And that's sort of what Micro Machines was, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I used to love Honey, I Shrunk the Kids when I was younger, so maybe that's what got me interested in that sort of thing.
I think every kid thought about that, hadn't they, in some way, and gone, that'd be cool.
And it was just the whole idea of these giant objects, and they weren't technically giant. You were smaller in the game, but getting in your way. And I remember, like, for its time, I feel it was quite revolutionary because you could like jump off the playing cards that were in the track to land onto the next track, and obviously if you missed, then you'd fall off the track and get respawned somewhere along. It was just, loved it.
Great choice.
So it's one you played yourself, is it?
Yeah, Sega. I have really sort of bit part memories of it. I think my sister really played it more. And yeah, but that's the game I remember the most and playing the most. And I think what's great is it's almost an anti-racing game because it's not so much focused on the skill of racing and it's not focused on upgrading your car and working out, if you too much acceleration versus, speed versus weight or whatever, they do nowadays, or even back then with some of the games. It was just quite simple in its premise, which meant it was like pick up and play.
I think it was more the races that made the difference. So there was slightly different races in each game that made ever so slight differences to the speed and stuff like that, but not enough that I really noticed.
No, not that I could either.
I'm just having a look now. There was Spider. I remember Spider. He was like what's his name? John Travolta-esque Grease character. That's the character I used to play as all the time. Yeah.
So it was cool.
So yeah. So I feel like I interrupted you a minute ago. You was about to say that this leads you nicely onto your number 4 pick. So shall we go for your number 4?
Yeah, and it is a better racing game than we've picked, as good as it was. I think this is, for me, the best racing game I've ever played.
I'm really worried.
And I think a lot of that's to do with that I hate racing games.
Okay.
This might be our first then joint one based on that. This game I thought actually wasn't that popular because it was on... And when I used to speak to people, they'd not played it. But it turns out it's the 8th best-selling game, and it is Michael Ellingham Watt. Correct. Is it on your list as well?
Oh, we've got an issue. It's my number 1 pick.
No way. Well, we've got something to talk about at least.
Shall we save this topic? It's going to be spoiled now, my number 1 pick. Shall we save it until my number 1?
Yeah, okay then.
Should this be how we do it?
So, shall I go on to my number 3, which you can use for your number 4?
Shall I go on to my number 4 first? Otherwise, we'll be way out of sync.
Yeah, okay.
You can tell we hadn't got a plan for this in the slightest. We said last week.
But I think it only took 5 episodes, so we've done well, I think.
Yeah. Ooh, that was nerve-wracking for me. I was worried you was going to pick the same one, and you did, and I was like, shit, what are we going to do? But I think we've come out of it okay. We've come with our dignity intact.
And it means we'll have a lot to talk about for number 1.
Oh, hopefully. Oh, I'm looking forward to that one. Stay tuned, guys. I wonder what our number 1 pick could be, or my number 1 pick. Right, my number 4. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I feel like there was a big sort of push for these type of games, and they were real-time strategy video games. So I'm talking like your Age of Empires, your Command and Conquers, both fantastic games within their own right. And I used to love them and play both of them all the time. Phenomenal. That's all I can say about them. But the one that made my list is the one that, oddly, I played more than either of those two combined. And it's a game called Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. It was essentially the same as Age of Empires and Command and Conquer, except it was set in the Star Wars universe. So you could play as Wookiees, the Rebel Alliance, the Galactic Empire, Gungans, or the Trade Federation. And you could play little campaigns based on each of their stories. And I think it was because it had this real-time strategy story set to a universe I kind of enjoyed at the time. And that's what I loved about it. It was just, I felt back in the early 2000s was where LucasArts was actually making good games. And this was one of them. I'm going to take it you haven't actually played it yourself.
No, but I've just Googled it now because I've not even heard of it before. And it says here that it was built on the same game engine as Age of Empires 1 and 2. So I'm like,
yeah, the Genie
I would have
engine.
loved this. Yeah, I would have loved this game. Like, why the hell have I not played it?
Yeah, so little story to go with it. I remember and this is where my parents are going to email into the podcast, because I don't speak to them unless they email into the podcast, obviously.
Love it, commitment.
And I remember getting some money for, it must have been, God, when was this? My 12th birthday, maybe? Because this game was released near my 12th birthday. Can't do maths. So I feel like I must have got some money for the 12th birthday, and I remember going to Game and buying Robot Wars, but it just didn't work on the PC. You know, when like things were really, you had to have proper PCs, and then it had to download codes and you couldn't return them to shops and stuff like that. I remember being really disappointed it just didn't work. So we tried to take it back to the shop, and I don't think they'd allow it, but my parents let me pick another game instead, and this is the game I picked up. Didn't know anything about it at the time. I think when you're that sort of age, you don't know a lot about all the games. You're not reading all the magazines and stuff like that necessarily. It's sort of word of mouth. But this is one I certainly hadn't heard of. If I remember rightly, like I said, it came out very near to my birthday, so it definitely wasn't that word of mouth. And I just remember going home and playing it all the time. I was absolutely obsessed with it.
That's really cool. I can't believe it. Like I said, I'm just so shocked.
I love that you're just reading it. Actually, no, I want to play this game.
Just googling it. Like, literally, just looks like Age of Empires 2, but Star Wars. Like, that's fucking
sick. That's literally what it is. You start off in a little sort of command center with a scout and 3 workers, like you do in Age of Empires, and you have to send them off and try and gather Nova crystals, carbon, ore, and food, which will help you then to build up and design these. Well, it's called holocrons instead of relics, which you'd get in Age of Empires. You can also get like defensive structures and build up your armies, and then eventually go. But you could also bring in big characters such as Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn, and send them to do certain campaigns as well.
That's cool. Do you remind me of? Well, look at the pictures. Did you ever play another RTS game on PC called Total Annihilation?
Never heard of that one.
Oh my god, so good.
What was it? So was it similar to this then?
Yeah, very similar, but it was like very like futuristic. So yeah, same sort of idea. A bit more like, it played a bit more like Warcraft 3 or Red Alert, maybe Command and Conquer Red Alert 2, perhaps. A bit like that. Yeah. It felt more like, but it was quite futuristic, on set in like a sci-fi world with more futuristic sort of armor. So I don't think you had many soldiers per se. It was more like tank, jet, things like that. But yeah, it was really cool. I'm glad we got an RTS in here, real-time strategy game.
I feel like I've got quite a wide variety of games actually. Again, I say this a few times. I've surprised myself with my list. Right, should we go? Well, let's introduce it properly. Right, Mike, should we go for your number 3 choice?
Let's do it. Again, this one is definitely not a game that's underrated, or a game that's not many people have heard of. You know, most of I think people who are gamers will have played it. However, that being said, I think it's underrated because of its sequel being so well loved and remembered, and that's GTA Vice City.
I think that's a fair choice, picking Vice City over GTA 3 or San Andreas.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing 3 and falling in love with it. I even remember playing 1 and 2 on a friend's PC. And
yeah, with a top-down camera.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And Vice City was the one that I first completed. I think the only one, sorry, that I've ever completed. You know, the main mission, main storyline. Yeah. So it holds a special place in my heart in that sense, with the sort of Scarface ending. I remember, if I close my eyes and think about GTA Vice City, the only song I can hear playing over and over in my head is Video Killed the Radio Star. I don't know if that was just coincidence when I played it, that it always seemed to be on every car and bike I got on, but it seemed to be played more than any other song.
See, I'm going to apologise here if I'm getting this song confused with GTA 3. Mm-hmm. I feel like I am, so I'm not going to say it. I've changed my mind.
Coward.
No, I think in GTA 3, the song that I'm thinking of, because I'm 100% sure it's GTA 3, it wasn't a song that I remember, but I remember there being a mafia mission near the top of the map, and like it'd be a proper sort of Don there, and I remember purposely picking out the sort of most mafia car that I could find before going onto that mission, and always playing classical music as I drove into the drive.
Yeah, I did that.
I'd always specifically do that. But I do apologise, that wasn't about Vice City, that was about GTA 3.
No, but it's still the GTA franchise. Yeah. I remember, even the things that I hate, I still remember fondly. Like, I remember the flying missions, where you had to, I think, drop off. I think it was the seaplane, and you had to go through these circles to drop flies off, maybe. And I don't think I've ever played a mission more in my life on any game, because I kept failing it.
The flying missions are always different. I started replaying GTA. What's the latest one? 5. Yeah, and I'm doing a few flying missions on there. I'm like, oh my god, I'm just flying everywhere. That's not in the right direction.
And I also remember as well GTA, and I think lots of people probably have stories like this. I remember turning it into a... And I did the same with 3 as well, but I think I was a bit more... we came up with different ones on Vice City. Coming up, making it our own sort of 2-player game in a way. You know, when a friend came around, because obviously you could only play 1 player, but I remember we'd do like a cheat where you'd put yourself to 5-star wanted.
Yeah.
And then it was take it in turns. Can you escape on 5-star against 5 stars? And then you'd eventually get killed or you'd lose them, and then the next person would play it. Or we'd do things like we'd get a timer, a stopwatch, and we'd time how far you'd get from one end of the map to the other, so you could do it the quickest.
Yeah.
Or we'd hole up in a certain building and see how long you can survive with you holed up in there before the police kill you. Like I just remember playing like lots of little mini games. So even though it was a single player game, I have so many memories of trying to turn it into a 2-player game in lots of different ways when your friend was around.
Yeah, I remember like on all GTA games, you used to go to the airports, didn't you? And then you'd always get a 5-star rating the moment you walked into the airports, and you'd try and fly away and get us. What I remember about this game is it felt realistic-ish in terms of its graphics, but also quite cartoony due to the colour palette. It was quite fun
definitely.
In that regard. It definitely went away from the realism of the previous in that, but also really went with a Vice City sort of... It was Miami, wasn't it, really? Theme of the whole thing. I'm just having a look here, by the way, at the cast list, and I'm quite impressed. So, Tommy Vercetti is played by Ray Liotta. You've got William Fichtner here,
Goodfellas.
Louis Guzman, and then you've also got Burt Reynolds and Danny Dyer.
No. Who's Danny Dyer? Wait, was he a music producer?
He was Kent Paul.
I do. Now you say it, I can hear it and see it.
See, I feel like I'm going to have to, because I know you can get this game on PlayStation 4 and such consoles still. So I'm really tempted now myself to go out and replay this game, because I don't think I ever completed it either.
I think again, it's years ago, so I can't say for certain, but I seem to remember it being like, is that the 6th the latest one actually?
No, it's not. I'm pretty sure it's GTA 5 and they're making 6. In fact, I'm
right, so Vice
certain on that because I'm on Google right now.
So it was 3, Vice City, San Andreas, then 5.
Yeah. But technically speaking, yeah, Vice City wasn't an official one. It wasn't part of the 1, 2, 3, 4, nor was San Andreas. You've also got stuff like the Chinatown Wars. So this is technically... And I think they also did a GTA London.
That was, I think, before 3 though. That was still top down.
It was definitely a top down one. So counting that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's been 9 games in the franchise so far.
Well, they've done well, haven't they?
Yeah. No, GTA games, they've always caused controversy, but they're always top games. I don't understand how our parents let us play them. I'm playing, like I say, GTA 5 right now, and I'm in shock by some of the language. And it's like, bloody hell, did my parents
I think it's just a lack of awareness back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like a complete lack of awareness of like...
My kids are not playing this game.
But as well, like, before like the internet had memes and things like that, I think there was this thing, like weird shit you did on GTA, like no one told me to sleep with a hooker to get my health and then kill her to get my money back. But everyone seems to have done that. So it's just, it's raised a generation of psychopaths with almost like these games. But I think that's what was cool is that, you could talk to someone who'd played it and the weird shit that you think that only you would have done. Like I said, I remember the first time I used to do things where, like I said, hole up, I'd use the gun sheet and just sort of almost time myself to see how long I could hold on before I was killed. I thought, I've obviously created my own little mini game, and then I speak to other people who'd done it. You know what I mean? We'd never spoke about it. We'd not Googled anything. We just, done the same sort of things that weren't technically game mechanics. We'd made our own little games in there. I think there's something quite cool about that.
You say you didn't Google it, but there was definitely a cheat website. I think it was like Cheat Masters.
Cheat codes? Yeah, Cheat Masters rings a bell.
Cheat Masters. I think it might have been.
Well,
Cheat
yeah,
Masters.
like I say, you Googled thing for things, but it wasn't like how actively like now you can watch videos and there's loads of websites and people who talk about what they do on their games and stuff like that. You just sort of figured it out on your own.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But have you noticed these days that games don't have cheat codes in them anymore? There's no cheat codes in games these days. Like we talked about back in GoldenEye.
GoldenEye.
Yeah, GoldenEye, how it just made the game fun. They weren't necessarily to make it better or anything. You could just change your gun into a paintball or make the heads big. But everyone would do it and it was just a lot of fun. And I feel like people try and go against cheat codes because they feel that they're just trying to make you cheat in the game. But I think the cheats that most people ended up doing, they didn't want to cheat to get to the end of the game, because where's the fun in that? They wanted to do stuff like, I remember making the car fly, for example, and stuff like that. Like, it was a lot of fun. There needs to bring back cheat codes in games. There we go.
I think it's probably DLC related as part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That things that perhaps used to be cheats and things, they're now like, well, we can just add this in. Like, sort of that pay to win sort of model that certain games have.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair point. It probably is that.
Okay, your number 3.
My number 3 is the only shooter, like, in terms of first-person shooter, that technically you're playing multiplayer, but because we didn't have internet or anything back then, never played it online, that I was actually quite good at, that I remember. And that's Unreal Tournament.
Yeah, good game.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Apparently there is a slight storyline. No idea what that storyline was. No interest in that whatsoever. I remember just doing stuff like capture the flag, deathmatch, and assault. Assault being where it was sort of you had to storm a base and there were certain objectives that you had to do while the other team's defending it. And the AI, I remember being genuinely absolutely fantastic. Like, they would actually be good, which even to this day is quite difficult. But these were AIs and bots that would hide and sort of shoot you if you saw them, and they'd actually be quite difficult to kill. So I didn't need to go online, even though it was famous for being a big one, like a top multiplayer online game. I was never interested in that.
My only memory of it really is in an IT class, someone had got a copy of it on a USB stick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he brought it here and then put it on everyone's a load of people's computers, and we started playing in the computer lesson.
That's
on
amazing.
Unreal Tournament, which was it was awesome. One of those IT teachers just sat at his desk the whole lesson.
Oh yeah, completely oblivious to everything that was going on.
Yeah, looking at God knows what. Probably playing his own game on there.
I remember some of the weapons as well. Like, there was blades that you'd fire out of the gun and like proper ricochet off everything, and you could sort of, like, if you got the angles right, you could get someone from an angle that shouldn't normally get them. And it was just Well,
I think as well, it's like how many games it's spun off. Like that competitive shooter model, I feel like sort of started there, or at least was popularised with this.
And obviously the Unreal Engine's still going to this day, I believe, isn't it? Which is what it was.
Yeah,
this and like Far Cry and Crysis, they're all games that are just built to show the capabilities of what this game engine can be doing. And I feel they did a good job of it. I've got distinct memories of like one on a boat in which you had to storm in an assault. There was like a futuristic one, and I remember having to jump a distance, otherwise you'd fall to the ground and die. It's one that I wouldn't say I can remember amazingly, but I've definitely got a lot of memories of playing it a lot when I was younger.
Good choice. And leads me into my next one for similar reasons in a lot of ways, actually.
Go on. Do tell.
So my number.
Hold on. Are we introducing? I'm trying to do a thing where we introduce them properly due to having that little sort of swoosh before each one.
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
Instead of just leading into it. That's what I'm sort of trying to say every now and again. Yeah, should we go for your number 2 choice?
Yep. So my number 2, in lots of reasons, I think, for yours, is the first time that I remember playing online games. I know yours was offline, but it was sort of the first time it was popularised. I remember essentially what everything I loved about Time Splitters and what I hoped games would turn into in the future is what this game did for me. This was when I was a child playing Time Splitters 2 and loving it with bots. Was like, oh god, it'd be amazing to play this online with people, not just AI computer. And that was COD 4.
Oh yeah. It's a good choice.
Which surprisingly is older than you think. It was released in 2007. So I was still in secondary school. I just remember, first of all, playing the story mode and absolutely loving that, and some of the best, probably the best characters in the campaign mode. And I think as a British person, playing with the SAS was just awesome. Like, they're the best of the best, aren't they? And you got to be one of them.
Yeah.
And then going online and playing, Team Deathmatch and my favourite Search and Destroy. It was just absolutely unbelievable, and really felt like I was like, okay, this is where gaming's headed. Like, why? For a while, I think there was particularly around when Modern Warfare 2, because I remember playing that a ridiculous amount online. But I think around that period, it was where sort of people were talking about the death of single player. You know what I mean? Like, why would you ever make a single player game anymore when you can do this? And obviously, single player had a huge comeback with games like the GTA games coming back out, the first Red Dead, The Witcher 3 and things, and I think Skyrim and stuff. But for a while, Call of Duty Online was took over my life so much. I really was like, when am I ever going to play any other game than this?
Yeah. Well, I think what you say, like a lot of shoot 'em up games went away from the single player that sort of promoted it. Because I remember one of my favourite sort of these types of game was probably the first Medal of Honor, in which it wasn't online, obviously, but I remember the single player mode being fantastic. But ever since, I would agree, Call of Duty 4, when it all went online, and then you'd start to see Halo and stuff like that, because I'm pretty sure that was like 2007-ish that came out. And they went away from the single player. I remember buying Halo 3, for example, and I completed the single player game in about 2 hours. And I remember one of my friends saying, "But why do you want to play the single player mode? Like, multiplayer is the way to go." And I think the reason for me is that I was shit. I have never been good at these games. So that is why I'm against Call of Duty, because I am shit at the game and I can never compete against anyone online. Where is the fun of me finishing a nice 7.5-hour day at work, coming home, putting my feet up, turning on the PlayStation 4, and then dying because people are better
And
than
do you
me.
know what? Modern Warfare 2 was the last game I ever really, competitive game I played online, shoot FPS.
Yeah.
A bit of Black Ops 2 as well, a little bit, but I really played the Black Ops games more for zombies. But that I'm saying, if you're not playing those games regularly, oh my god, the golfing class is just unbelievable. Like, I was pretty decent online, and now if I go on any FPS game, not just Call of Duties, I'm just dead within seconds, and I've become like an old man who can't react quick enough. But I think it's more. I think a lot of it is to do with how much you play. If you're constantly playing it, to me, you just get sharper and
oh yeah,
and
definitely.
quicker. But if you pick up and play games online, FPS shooters do not work for it because it is just so competitive. Because people are putting so many hours in every day, and if you're picking up once a week, once every 2, you're just nowhere near the standard to be, which is a shame. But that's why I think single player games have had a comeback.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I don't think Call of Duty is necessarily a bad choice. It's just not one that I'd personally pick. Especially now, as they do seem to be just rehashing the same game constantly. It doesn't feel.
100%.
It doesn't feel fresh anymore.
No, I'd agree.
But
like I said, I think
back in Call of Duty 4, it was.
There's
still
no
fresh.
game I played online more than that.
Yeah,
exactly. Definitely was. It was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I think that's a completely valid choice, and you're understandable for picking it. I will say we did off camera stipulate no game beyond the age of 14. How old were you when this came out?
2007. 14, 15.
How old were you when this came out?
I think I was 14.
1991 to 2007.
Yeah,
you would have been.
I finished my GCSEs at 2008.
You would have been 15 or 16.
16.
You would have been 15 or 16.
Yeah, I would have been.
You know what? Consider this your warning. Consider this a warning, and I don't expect to see it happen on your number one choice.
Well, you already know. Everyone already knows mine. Well, actually, no, you don't know my number one choice. Yeah, my number one choice.
Everyone knows my number one. No one knows what your one is.
Yeah.
Just let it be a warning. So we have only got the excitement of only one more choice from me. Although I've got a few honourable mentions. I'm just going to produce a list when it comes to it. Probably not at that point yet.
Cool.
My number one choice, I remember being such a good game, despite the fact.
Wait, number one or number two?
My number two.
Sorry, yeah.
I probably said number one, but I will never know
until
I go back and edit this. You're in the wrong, and I might edit it so you're in the wrong.
Will there be that computerized voice where
number one?
All of a sudden you say my number,
Except I just said number one again. So anyway, my number two choice is a game that, like I said, I'm not sporty in the slightest, but somehow a sporty game did make it onto my top 5, and I'd say it was the precursors of games like Pro Evolution Soccer, and it's International Superstar Soccer 64. And it's not the 64th edition of the game. That's the Nintendo 64
version. Was it the
version.
Nintendo 64 game? Yeah, I think I remember playing this one.
Yeah.
Not much, but I did. Yeah.
I remember me and my brother used to play it all the time, and just the commentary was top notch in that it was shit, but amazing. I remember as when you came into the game with International Superstar Soccer, and you'd hear the classic Konami like Japanese style music over the top, and you'd go through the selection and pick your teams. And it was obviously international, so all the sort of World Cup sort of teams that you could play as. But they all had slight knockoff names, like you had T. Keegan or K. Hoddle and stuff like that, so they could get away with the copyright issues. And then you'd start the game, and say like you was playing Japan against Greece. It'd start the game being like, today's game is Japan versus Greece. Like, the person who obviously only recorded one way of saying Greece, and it might be like how they scored. So they'd always just have, whenever he mentioned Greece, it'd be Greece and stuff like that. It was just fantastic for it. And like, it was at the time quite revolutionary, I'd say, because it was, I believe, the first game in which you could do like a 1-2. So you could pass to one player and then they'd pass it back to you. You could play a through ball, so it'd be great for sort of like beating the offside and everything. It was just I think it was the building grounds that eventually led up to Pro Evolution Soccer, mainly because it was developed by the same people, and FIFA that we see now. And being 3D at the time, I think it might be the first 3D football game that was released. And it was just a lot of fun. Me and my brother used to play it all the time. And I remember kicking his ass all the time because I'd play as the goalie. Also, another great thing about it is it used to give you scenarios. So you might be playing a World Cup game from yonder years. I can't think of any that off the top of my head, but it might be like England versus Switzerland, and you'd be losing 3-1, and you have to win the game. And it gives you little scenarios like that, or you'd start the game in a corner, from a corner kick, and you have to score the corner. And it was quite an interesting way of doing football games for back in its days, because it came out back in '96.
That replayability as well, isn't it? Which is good. You have to mean you can keep playing it and playing it over and over.
Like I said, me and my brother played it all the time. Like the commentator, it's still amazing. He hasn't, but someone's created a Twitter account called International Superstar Commentator, and he's just literally got his voiceovers over random football games, and it's hilarious to watch. And it'd always come out at the second half and explain that like one team, so South Africa is playing from left to right, whereas Saudi Arabia is playing right to left. And he'd always explain the rules of football that everyone knew. And yeah, it was great game. Like I said, it's the commentary that I remember so vividly, and it was fantastic, awful commentary. But I think at the time it was good commentary, because it really would. I remember being as the goalkeeper. You can tell I know a lot about football, can't you? You'd play as the goalkeeper, and it'd be really easy to score a goal as the goalkeeper. And I don't think my brother realised this, because if you tackled the goalkeeper, you'd get a red card instantly. So pass to the goalkeeper, run all the way to the other end and score a goal. But you just hear the commentator go, "Oh my God, he's taking it all away!" And it was just, I just loved it. It was just brilliant. I feel like it was ahead of its time. It probably wasn't, but I feel like it was ahead of its time thinking about it now. I loved it.
No, it's a good choice, and it's one of those, isn't it, that's tied with memories, obviously, of you and your brother playing it. And
yeah, definitely.
And I guess it's probably the first game you were probably aware of a game's flaws so obviously, almost, where you could laugh at it.
Yeah, I remember as well, like the
I like that choice.
The overtime. Is that the word for it? Extra time. Bloody hell.
Time.
I did used to watch football and play football, and I do know these things. I'm not a completely oblivious guy who knows nothing about football. The extra time, it was so unweighted. So like you'd set up the game so it'd play 3 minutes, for example, per half, because obviously you'd never really play a full 45-minute game per half. You'd be there for ages, and so you play 3 minutes per half. But then extra time came along, and it'd be 6 minutes at a time, which would probably equate to a couple of seconds. But no, in this game, it'd actually be 6 full minutes. So the extra time was longer than the actual game itself. It was genius, but also shit at the same time. But I loved it. I've got such fond memories of it.
I love that. And like I said, I think that's what makes games, isn't it? I think that's what makes you a gamer, isn't it? Is it stuff like that growing up that you have like nostalgic attachments to that make you still want to play games almost, because you're almost chasing that high of your youth, aren't you? Of wanting that feeling back almost that you could only get from games. You know what I mean? It's not the same from a film or a book, as much as I love films and books and things like that. There's only something about you being the character.
I'm really looking forward to making those sort of memories when my child, who's not yet arrived, but by the time this podcast comes out, it might have done. But I'm really looking forward to just making those memories with my kid. And I sort of want to get old school games that I grew up on and play with them because if they are almost oblivious when they're younger to the new style games out there, they'll appreciate the other games a lot more. So I'd love to be able to do that with them and bring them up on like, oh, here's your first console for your birthday. It's a Sega Mega Drive, and then get them a Nintendo 64 and work their way up. Like maybe speed up the process a bit from the console releases, but I'd love that.
I was putting the Christmas decorations away end of December, and I found my old N64 and all the games up there. So we will, like I said, I think we mentioned this first time, but we'll have to genuinely, you'll have to come round and we'll have to play some N64.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my parents got our N64 in the loft, but they're saying that they're clearing out recently, and they definitely haven't mentioned it. But yeah, I agree. I'd love to sort of play the Nintendo 64 again. It's a great console, such amazing games. I'd say it's got some of the best games ever made on it.
Yeah, definitely. And that leads me into a game that wasn't direct on the N64, but you could play it on the.
Oh, there's a tease and a half.
So, number one for me.
Are we actually on to number ones?
Yeah, because I'm on my number one, which is sort of my number two.
I do apologise. I just feel like this recording's flown by.
Yeah, it has done. But our number one will probably be longer. Your number one will be longer because it's also my number 5 or 4.
Well, I hope the listeners are enjoying this as much as I'm enjoying actually discussing these ones.
And you've said that you've been quite nice there. I'm going to go the other way. So my choice.
It's not our number one. I didn't think it was our number one. This is the professionalism that everyone tunes in for. We've got honourable mentions.
No, this is my number one.
We've got honourable mentions.
Yes, you're right.
It's time for the honourable mentions.
I've won the honourable mention already, by the way, as well.
Oh, probably. My 3, you probably wouldn't have heard of. But go on.
So, first one that I'm not going to talk about too much is an Xbox. Well, I played on Xbox. It might have been out on other consoles as well, but that was Fable.
Oh, yeah.
Fantasy RPG that was brilliant. It was like had lots of British humour in. That was funny.
Narrated by Stephen Fry.
Yeah, and then I remember the creator Peter Monley, just when the next one came out, number 2, him saying basically saying this game was going to be just like unbelievable. It's basically he was describing a game that was almost on like the level of Cyberpunk of things that this game would do, and they just did not have the technology. Well, the stuff he was saying.
Is that why he's universally hated in the video game world?
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Honestly,
okay.
the things, and because then as well, everyone would be like amazing, and then you'd play this game, which was great, but it was disappointing as fuck after number 1 because you were like, well, I was promised all of this, and that wasn't the game I got, but it was still good. But so Fable was brilliant. But my honourable mention, one that if you're anything like me, I used to play at school all the time in IT lessons and business, and you could share a keyboard. And that was Slime Soccer. What a game.
Don't recognise it.
Oh my gosh, see if it's still online, find you a link. You literally just used to use WASD.
Oh, slimesoccer.io.
There we go. And you're essentially this little slime, and you've got to head the ball and kick the ball over the other slime to score. And you could play against the AI in a World Cup, or you could play against a friend who would use, I think it was like UHJK or something like that.
I've started the game and
are you playing it?
All I can hear is a noise in my ears. Am I shouting? Okay, there we go. I'll turn the music off. Okay, so this is the first game that I'm going to have a quick game of. Let's see what it was like. No, I definitely don't remember this. Ooh.
Oh, it's so good.
What am I doing? How do I jump?
Up, I think, like W or spacebar, maybe?
It's up, the sensible option. Why is it called Slime Soccer? Because I'm playing as a metal robot.
See, I remember them being like these, like half moon slimes.
Yeah, they are. Do you know what it's reminding me of a bit? Oh, I just scored an own goal.
What?
It's reminding me a bit of Rocket League.
Yeah, I guess so. Like a very, very early like precursor to it.
Yeah, like a 2D version.
Yeah.
Right. It turns out I'm not very good at this game, so I'm going to stop playing now. Plus, I'm sure listening to me play the game is not very exciting. Never played it myself.
Listening to you play it badly, however.
Yeah, I'm not very good at this game. Not saying it's a bad game,
but yeah, that was a great internet game. I remember there being a period where, like, even though I had like a PS2 and stuff, like people would find these free online games that you'd play, like it was flash games that would
exactly. It was the thing to do back in the days, wasn't it? I remember there was one called Classroom Cheater, maybe, in which you a classroom cheat. In which you was at a desk and the teacher would be looking around and you see their scope of vision and you had to try and cheat off someone and look at them, but then obviously if the teacher looked at you, then you was caught cheating. I remember there being like a free, there was loads of Stickmin adventures, wasn't there? which you'd go around as
Yeah.
stick men shooting people. I've got loads of memories of not actually doing work and actually playing on those games instead.
Yeah, there you go. And for me, Slime Soccer is the one that will always, I don't know, have a place in my heart because of playing it so much at school.
You know what? That's a solid choice, and I'll give it to you there. Right.
Your honourable mentions.
My honourable mention. So, as I've said at the top of this episode, I have got so many 54 choices that I could have narrowed it down from. So, to get to just 8, and that's including the honourable mentions, I think it's pretty impressive. But I've got stuff on here like Bubsy, Toy Story 2 on the PS1, Elf Bowling, do you remember that?
No.
Rubbish. Legends of Wrestling, Red Card Soccer, in which you could basically
Oh, yes.
do whatever you wanted and just literally just like almost kill the other player.
Yeah, I
and
think
be absolutely fine.
Couldn't you? Yeah, and couldn't you foul the ref as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Beautiful Joe, Pilot Wings. Got so many on my list, it's insane. But my honourable mentions. So I'll start off with. Well, I'll start off with the game that I probably got the least memories of, but I do remember playing it all the time, and it was called Rollo to the Rescue. And I used to play it around my aunt's house on the Sega Mega Drive. A lot of games I used to play on my aunt's house, because I remember one of my cousins in her bedroom, she had a PS1. My other cousin had a Sega Mega Drive, and then downstairs they'd have a Nintendo Entertainment System. So they'd have quite a variety of consoles. But Rollo to the
Rich
Rescue...
family?
Say again?
Rich family?
No, just a lot of kids. There's 4 of them. Anyway, so Rollo to the Rescue is a really simple game. I won't go into too much detail, and I just remember enjoying it. It was a nice little 2D platformer in which you play as a little elephant who had to go through these little levels that was sort of much akin to most 2D platformer games. And he used to use his powers to sort of do stuff. So he used to be able to use his trunk to shoot water or suck in objects and shoot them out and stuff like that. I remember him used to be able to like float in the air. I think he could use like helium to do that or something like that. But he'd go around trying to save all the other animals in the map. So you'd try save like a mole, for example, or a squirrel or a rabbit, and you can swap between these characters and use their special abilities as well. It was just a nice little 2D platformer, and I remember it being just one of my top Sega Mega Drive games, beyond like Sonic and games like that, of all time, and playing it quite a lot. So that's one. Number 2 is a game that is actually on the App Store on the Sega. So Sega have got their own publisher on the App Store where they've released some of their top games, and it's on there, and it's called Dynamite Headdy. It was very, very similar to what's his name? Rayman, in which you play as a character who it was a little platform game, and you'd go along and you had to save the world from this evil puppet king, and you'd use your head to sort of attack things, so your head would come flying off, and you could get different power-ups, and like things could, like one of them I remember, like loads of blasts would come out of you from all angles, and as you run along you'd attack all the enemies. But I remember it being quite a difficult little platformer, but it was played as like almost a theatre show sort of thing. So like the curtains would open and stuff like that, and it was quite a nice little visual game, I'd say. And if you get a chance to play it on your phones or anything, I would recommend it. It's a nice game. But my actual proper honourable mention goes to a game that not a single person listening would have heard of, except for my family. So this one's to you guys, and it's called Word Rescue. So it's the first game. On? It was on the Microsoft DOS. Ooh. So it's the first game I ever remember playing. I've spoken to my dad about it recently, and he said he got it free on in a magazine back in the days when you used to get floppy disks and stuff. And you play as a little boy or girl who's been enlisted by a bookworm called Benny to track down the missing words that have been stolen by these evil Gruzzles, and then you've got to match them in the pictures. So across this little sort of, all across all the levels, you might have a little question mark, and you jump onto it, and it says the word pen. You then have to go across the map to find the word pen. But if you hit these Gruzzies, then you die instantly, and you have to restart the whole level. Also, if you went across the map and selected the wrong, so instead of a pen, you picked I can't think of another 3-letter word. Gun, because I know for a fact gun was one of them. You selected the gun.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah, a Gruzzle will appear, and you've got to press spacebar as quickly as you can to make Benny appear and chuck some slime over it to kill it. It was just, I remember playing it loads as a kid. Like I said, no one's going to have heard of it, but I know me and my brother will have distinct fond memories of it. And like as you go across the worlds and across the levels, like the words get harder. So it was an educational game, and it was sort of the games that everyone used to play in primary school and stuff like this, but I actually done it well. It was quite a nice little platformer. So yeah, if you've ever got kids and you want to start teach them how to spell, recommend word rescue because I can spell, so it clearly worked.
If it wasn't for this game, who knows? Right, on to our number ones.
Indeed. Oh, I wonder what they could be.
So
I'm excited
we
about
know what
your one.
yours is, obviously.
Do we?
Well,
Maybe,
like I say, my third.
I can say maybe we just didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk about. So maybe I said it was that earlier, so we'd move past very quickly, and now this is it.
Well, my number one, is one of two games that you could have picked up that were very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, you could also play it on the N64, although it wasn't an N64 game. You had to have an attachment. And that is Pokemon Blue. And fuck all of you that were Pokemon Red fans, because Pokemon Blue was where it was at.
I had Pokemon Blue. So I almost picked Pokemon Stadium as one of my choices. And the reason I almost picked Pokemon Stadium is because of the thing that you just mentioned. You could play Pokemon Blue on your Nintendo 64 with an attachment. I had that attachment that you could play it on Pokemon Stadium and you could speed up time. So it was a 2-for-1 in that Pokemon Stadium, I'm saying, had Pokemon Stadium and also Pokemon Blue on it. So that's why I was going to pick that originally at one point. So I'm with you on this.
I think this game for me, I don't think I've ever played a game or known more about a game than this one. And I remember going to a newsagent's and picking up a copy of like a Pokemon Red and Blue guide.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a Bible. And it got to the point that I read that magazine so much and I played the game, because I'd replay it. As soon as I completed it again, I'd just start again.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, it was in between the second and third gym, so between Misty and Lieutenant Surge.
Cave.
Or was it... Yes, the Dark Cave. I never ever used Flash, but I played it so much and I used that magazine so much that I think even now, just from pure muscle memory, I could get through that cave in pure darkness and know where all the ladders were and things like that. It was crazy.
Know where all the Pokeballs to collect are.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And I still remember the rare candy cheat when you get to, I think it's called Cinnabar Island, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And then you can get 99 rare candies to cheat and get your Pokemon leveled up.
I'm pretty sure, by the way, that this cave was between Brock and Misty, because I remember when you came out of the cave, like there was a bit to the top where you could go see Bill, wasn't it? But then to the top and left is where you'd catch Abra, and you'd always try and dart away before you had a chance. Yeah, I think it was between coming out, like you say, haven't played this game in years, but I've got vivid memories of that.
Yeah. In fact, I remember like the trick was that you were supposed to use Cut and go back somewhere, I think, to get Flash off something. So when you first learnt Cut from Brock, maybe.
Yeah.
You had to get, or something like that.
That was off one
how
of the
you were
routes,
supposed to do it. Yeah, and then you get electric Pokemon to use Flash, but I never knew how to do that, even though I had the goddamn magazine. And instead just basically learned to, maneuver through this cave in pitch black. But yeah, again, so many fun memories, so many hours. I grew up loving the TV show as a kid and watching it on, was it SMTV Live with Ant and Dec and Kat Deely? What a show.
I remember excitedly sitting down for the first episode, being really excited. Like, it was fantastic. I remember me and my friend, we went to the cinema to watch all the movies. It was such a big thing, and obviously, what came first, the animation or the games? There's a question.
I'm about to say, I seem to remember that a common way around it was that they either made the game or the animation to help sell the trading cards or something. They made, you know what I mean, like part of the reason for making it was to sort of sell. It was always this idea of getting money from this idea of a collectible sort of thing. So I feel like it's been the trading card game.
The game came first.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the trading cards yet, but the video game came first in Japan. In America, the game didn't come out, or in England. So in America, the game came out in 1998, September. In England, it didn't come out until October 5th, 1999. But
we should get things much later back then, didn't we?
The first episode of the Indigo League was aired in Japan in 1997. But then again, in America, it aired from 1999. So I think the game came first in each country.
There we go. And then it was the TV show after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, brilliant. Not lots to be said about Pokemon. Everyone knows how popular it is, and or was anyway.
I got Pokemon Sword. It was a bit easy in my opinion, but I still absolutely loved it. It still had that nostalgia feel to it.
Do you know what? I've still got my Game Boy Advance and my copy of Pokemon Blue, even to this day. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it.
Yeah, I remember. So I had Blue, I had Pokemon Gold, and then I think I grew out of it by Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, because I remember just before we went to secondary school, the year before me, Pokemon was banned and you weren't allowed to take Pokemon trading cards or Game Boys into school. So I never went to school and got to play these games. So I stopped playing it then. And I think I got Heart Gold when that came out, and had a bit of sort of...
I thought you were going to say that you stopped going to school when they wouldn't let you bring your Pokemon games in. You're like, and that's when I was like, fuck that, and I was homeschooled for the rest of my life.
I used to genuinely draw the Pokemon and cut them out sort of like into their shape as they're meant to be, and put them in front of the trading cards in their wallet, and then I used to trade the Pokemon pictures that I drew to people for Pokemon cards.
Wow.
Genuinely true. And remember there was always that kid who traded his Game Boy for a shiny Charizard or something, and the mum would always be like, what the fuck did you just do?
Yeah, they'd end up at your house, wouldn't they, later that night, and you've got to swap it back.
No, Pokemon, like, I know we're talking about everything with Pokemon here. Like I said, I almost picked Pokemon Stadium on one of my top games, just because you got to play Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Red or Blue. Like, just groundbreaking in what it did for that sort of franchise, that sort of collector. Because really, it's a simple game, isn't it? There's not much to it.
Yeah.
Collect a Pokemon, make it bigger and stronger, and fight it. That's it.
And it's a lot of grinding, really. You know, for a child, well, playing it as a child, there was a lot of just, right, I've just got to go into the grass and keep battering these Pidgeys until my Pokemon learns a certain move so I can beat the gym leader. Like, parts of it just weren't fun, if you know what I mean. It was, like I say, just grinding. But again, I remember, you know, going back to TV shows, I remember watching, like, Xena or WWF, you know, as background, as I was sort of grinding through Pokemon for an hour just to level up all my Pokemon.
Yeah, no, I love it. Great game, great choice, top notch.
And now you're number 1 and my number 4.
Okay, my number 1 is Gorillas.Bass.
What?
Have you ever heard of this game? Google
No.
it. I can guarantee you played it. I'm intrigued.
What's it called?
Gorillas. So the ape-like... Are they apes?
Gorillas what?
.BAS.
Just come up with some weird porn, mate. What were you doing as a child? No, I've not. Although it says it was for the bloody IBM Corporation made it for the MS-DOS, so no, I've
did you not have an MS-DOS? It was just like the old
No.
school sort of like Worms game in which you put your trajectory and your gorilla would throw a boulder to see if you'd hit the other gorilla. But if you missed, you'd destroy part of the scenery. It was just an old school Worms. Anyway, joking aside, my number 1 choice that, as you might have noticed, me and Mike came up with an idea to keep you guys, what's the word I am looking for?
Still listening and not turning it off. All right, we know there's no more choice now. We're off.
Like, not infused. This is groundbreaking.
Intrigued.
Intrigued. I was going to grab a thesaurus.
Hey, if only there was a game in your youth that helped you learn new words. That would have come in handy, wouldn't it?
It was word rescue, not thesaurus rescue. Synonym rescue. Yeah, so our number 1 choice is Diddy Kong Racing. What an amazing game. It was, in my opinion, better than Mario Kart. And would you agree with that, in your opinion?
Yeah, 100%. Like, by a mile. Like, by a country mile as well. Like, I'll be honest, I think Mario Kart's one of the most overrated games ever made.
I'd agree. I enjoy it, don't get me wrong.
I think
it's a great party game.
I enjoy... it's a great party game to play once and then realise that there's rubber banding. So if you're losing, you actually get a speed boost to keep up with everyone.
Yeah. It's better than than sort of false rubber banding. It's a bit more obvious with it as opposed to suddenly speeding up the cars.
To be fair as well, I don't know about this for you, for Diddy Kong Racing, I have very few memories of actually racing.
Just driving around the little course that you've got at the beginning to go into the levels? Or are you on about
and I just remember playing
you on about the flying or the
mini
boats?
games. I'm on about the mini games you could play.
Remind me of the mini games.
So me and my sister used to play this all the time. So again, you could have bots and AIs and things like that. So there were ones where it was like a team deathmatch. You had to just fire against the opposition people with the rockets. That's all you did. You just drove around this level. There was no start and finish. It was just a time limit. Or there was one where it was almost like in Fall Guys, where you've got to put the eggs in a basket, but you can go and steal it as well. So you get your teams.
They was behind you, weren't they, as you collected more and more eggs?
That's right, yeah, exactly. So for me, that's my whole memory of Diddy Kong Racing was all the mini games aspects of it rather than the actual racing aspect of it.
Yeah, no, I do remember those games now. Don't think I played them as much, but definitely played them.
That's interesting then. The reason it's my number 4 and your number 1 are two totally different reasons. Like I said, for me, it was just playing those mini games. It was nice to have those characters, I think.
I just love, like, there was hidden things in all the levels, so you could collect balloons, couldn't you, or stuff like that within each level. So you use racing, but you actually had other sort of things to try and find without the level while still trying to win the race. And it was also because Mario Kart, relatively recently in the grand scheme of things, got like boats and gliders. This was a game that you could actually fly in a plane or glide in a sort of hovercraft, and had a great range of characters that you could play as that weren't as famous Nintendo IPs, but were still pretty big. So like Banjo the Bear from Banjo-Kazooie, you had Conker the Squirrel from Conker's Bad Fur Day, obviously Diddy Kong from Donkey Kong. It was just a really, I felt it sort of pushed what Mario Kart already had done and made it better. And I feel a lot of people a bit older than us have memories of, or a bit younger than us, sorry, have memories of Crash Team Racing. And I feel like this was the game that became Crash Team Racing, because you had that. So you start off in a world that sort of you can drive around it and go into these race maps from a little door. That's what Crash Team Racing did. I feel this game became Crash Team Racing, and I've got to applaud it for it. I feel like this and Rugrats, we need to really start the campaign to get a sequel or a remaster of it. I don't understand how there's only been one Diddy Kong Racing game.
Yeah, I mean, Rugrats particularly, it has to be a remaster, because how can you do a sequel?
Oh yeah, I'd agree. So reading here,
no, I think
apparently,
a great choice, and I think. Oh, go on.
I was going to say, apparently, Rare began developing a sequel for the GameCube called Donkey Kong Racing. I'm not sure what happened to it by the looks of it. Oh, I think it's because...
You know what, in some ways, as much as you desperately want a sequel for games that you love, it's like when you get a sequel to a film, and you're like, oh... You know, like The Hangover. The Hangover would have been up there with sort of a Superbad for how good it was, or a Step Brothers, if it had just stayed at that first one, but it sort of muddied its legacy by making watered-down sequels that weren't as good. And I think that's probably what makes some of these older games so iconic, is because they didn't ruin it by making more of them. I think that probably was, Mario Kart's problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, I think actually what made this better than Mario Kart is, for me, like I said, we seem to have come up with this at very different reasonings. But Mario Kart, I feel, works better as a multiplayer game. This one, don't get me wrong, I used to play it as a multiplayer game all the time, me and my brother. But it still worked really well as a single-player game. There was actual objectives and a proper campaign to do, as opposed to just a tournament that you win, you get gold in, and then that's it. There's no sort of continuing story. There is an actual story at play here, a physical plot. I used to have to, whenever you sort of beat like 3 races or something like that, you then have to beat like the big enemy, didn't you? And it was like an oversized enemy that would just do the race with you, but it was just massive compared to you.
Yeah. I just think, I don't know, maybe it's a bit hipstery because it wasn't as popular, I don't know, but like I say, even the racing part felt more competitive, more skill-based. Then I feel like Mario Kart becomes a lot of luck, if you know what I mean. I felt like if you were good at Diddy Kong, maybe I'm wrong, like I say, because it's, the haze of youth almost, youth even, but I do feel like there was more skill to it involved, and that it was more, I don't know, creative in some ways.
Yeah, no,
especially those mini games.
Absolutely. Great top 5 pick, great top 1 pick in my opinion. One of my favourite games as a kid. Played it all the time. And before we get people emailing in, there was an enhanced remake for the Nintendo DS that came out back in 2007. But why has there not been one on the Nintendo Switch is all I'm saying.
I know. Let's start the campaign now.
Let's
start a hashtag. Yeah. I know, well, this is more for us than the listeners, but they can listen in as well if they want. Our next one, I'm really feeling the documentaries one.
Are you?
Have you got a top 5 documentaries?
Oh, I don't know, but I'm sure I could think of one or some.
I'm into it in a big way.
It's a very different topic from what we're going from in the past, but I'm not against it.
Nice.
Well,
as well, we also have this sort of like little conversations at the end as well. But one thing that you spoke about before, which is really cool if any of these people are listening, but we looked at the sort of where people have played, so what, sort of what countries, the demographic and things like that. And we had some listeners, was it Canada?
Yeah.
France, Mexico. I mean, that's absolutely unbelievable. If those people are still listening, you've got to email in because that's unreal. So again, if you want to contact us, and again, we'd love to hear your top fives or any questions or any comments
suggestions or anything. Yeah.
If any of you scumbag Pokemon Red players want to come at me, that's fine. You can reach us through email on mammonpodcast@hotmail.com or on Twitter. Should I do that again?
Yeah, let's
Mammon
go for
Podcast. You can reach us on email through mammonpodcast@hotmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook by searching Mammon Podcast on there too. And Twitter, we still have 0 followers, which is embarrassing, to be honest with you. And every time I log on, I just get that every time I log on Twitter, I'm like, this is the day. And then there's no one there.
So it's disappointing because I'm in charge of the Facebook page and Mike's in charge of the Twitter page. We know which one's going well.
You're going to have to take over. There's going to have to be a Mike replace Mike on Twitter if we're not careful.
Well, while we've been doing this podcast, 2 more people have liked the Mammon Facebook group. So just saying who's winning.
What, genuinely? What, during this podcast we're recording?
Yeah.
That's unreal. Love it.
There you go. Real-time strategy Facebooking there. The RTS of the Facebooking game.
Right, should we call this shit show of a podcast today?
Well, I think we're getting better, and I'd like to think our listeners think we're getting better. I didn't hear any tapping of any microphone cable from you today.
No, but I physically had to move myself into the corner of a room away from my computer desk and everything. And even then, there were still times where I had to stop myself like tapping things.
I've been genuinely getting into like looking on Reddit and looking through podcasting because I really want to improve this podcast and make it better listening for the listeners. I don't want us to be we are amateurs at the game at the end of the day. We're never going to be up there with the top podcasts, at least not yet, that's for sure. But I still want it to be a nice experience for our listeners. So I've been going through the subreddits to get advice and stuff, and people post their sort of podcast setups all the time on there. And people have got like tents that they record in. Some people do genuinely record in the toilet. A lot of people record in their wardrobes, and it's really bizarre. I'm just happy in my little bedroom.
Yeah, I'm happy in my office. I feel like if I got to that point, I should probably stop doing it.
Like that. But I feel like that's the next step, isn't it? We'll buy a house and it's got to have a podcasting room.
Yeah, that's if we ever get to how many subscribers? Is that the word on podcasting? Followers?
Subscribers,
listeners?
Followers, yeah. Listeners. I think listeners is the better word.
Yeah. We'll have to come up with the number of when we'll do something a bit more unique for it. Like we'll go out and buy something proper, like maybe a tent rather than a whole house.
I brought a tent over a year ago for just the summer just gone to actually go camping, but there was some weird pandemic or something from what I've heard, so I've not been able to use it. So I've got quite a big tent that we could use. I
imagine surely they're like soundproofing tents, or sound dampening at least.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more sound damping than they're definitely not soundproof. Last time I went camping, it was with you, and there was that massive festival going on in a field next door, and just could not sleep.
Right. I will see you, Michael, next week for our next podcast.
Which you mean you will listen to me next week for our next podcast?
Yeah, we don't even do visuals anymore, do we?
No, we've removed.
Is it easier to do this without looking into my face?
It felt reassuring to begin with.
Yeah.
It was just looking into your eyes. You sort of looked at me in a way that was like, keep going, Michael, you're doing okay. You can do this. Get your sentences out.
I've just got a lazy eye, mate. That's all. Right, I will see you next week, as well as the listeners. And again, thank you. If you, by the way, gold star if you get to this, like the dregs that we have at the end, as we're like tired, because we always record late at night. Have you noticed that? We always start recording like 8, and it gets like 9:30 on a work night, and I've lost my motivation. So fair play to anyone who's still listening. Again, I want a comment on Facebook, Twitter, or email if you are one of those who gets right to the bitter end.
I know it doesn't sound like it, but this honestly is an unscripted podcast. I know it sounds like the most scripted thing you've ever heard. Genuinely, like the professionalism with us saying exactly what we're going to say is really there, but it's honestly not. We come up with this on the fly. So, yeah,
which is
well done, you.
Well done.
Sometimes it is shit. No, thanks for listening. Right. And like we say, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Give us an email if you want, and tell your friends as well.
Yeah, please. Yeah, share and like. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Right, should we stop recordings?
Yeah.